Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the exact process that separates the amateurs from the true professionals. Think about it. You've done all the heavy lifting, right? The research, the analysis, pounding out that rough draft. But now what? How do you take that raw, messy block of text and transform it into a brilliant, polished artifact? Well, that is exactly what we're going to break down for you today.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. Writing a rock-solid professional report is exactly like building a house. You don't just, throw up some drywall and call it a day. You absolutely have to make sure the structural integrity is completely sound. You need a rock-solid foundation, sturdy framing, and perfectly finished details. Because if any of those elements fail, the whole structure is just going to collapse under pressure.
So you really have to ask yourself honestly, is your first draft really your final draft? It's such a common trap to think that once the words are out of your head and onto the page, boom, the job is done. But let's just dispel that myth right now. The truth? The true professional craft is only just beginning. The real magic doesn't happen in the writing, it happens in the revising.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the 3 S's of revision. Second, the builder versus the inspector. Third, phase 1, content and structure. Fourth, the inspector's magnified view. Fifth, bypassing your brain's autocorrect. And finally, crafting the polished artifact.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the 3 S's of revision, laying the foundation.
So, revision literally means re-seeing your draft from the ground up. You start macro and you move micro. Kind of think of it like concentric circles. At the very center, you have S1, story, or your foundation. This is where you really evaluate your core message. You're asking, does my foundational argument actually hold weight? Then, moving outward, we hit S2, structure, the framing. Are your major blocks of content arranged logically? Are the load-bearing walls actually in the right place? And finally, the outer ring is S3, style, or the fixtures. This is where you get to refine your sentence structure and tweak your authorial voice to perfectly suit your intended audience.
Moving to Section 2, the builder versus inspector, 2 distinct roles.
Now, to successfully polish a report without, completely overwhelming yourself, you actually have to split your brain into 2 distinct personas. First up is the builder. This is your editing persona. Here, you're focused entirely on the big picture meaning, content, structure, style. You're constantly asking, does this make sense? You're swinging the hammer, you're improving, moving things around, rewriting. But then you have to become the inspector. This is your proofreading persona. And suddenly, the focus shifts to granular mechanics. You are no longer asking if it makes sense, you're asking, is this technically perfect? You're basically ruthlessly hunting for errors.
That brings us to Section 3, Phase 1, Content and Structure, Engineering the Flow.
Okay, so putting our builder hard hat back on for a second, content editing really rests on 4 main pillars. First is accuracy and relevance. This is the deep dive. You absolutely must verify your facts, spot any logical gaps, and make sure your message is 100% consistent throughout. You're basically doing a massive check on your data integrity. Then we have clarity and tone. This is the translation phase. This means reviewing your language choices so they match the professional context perfectly. You're stripping out ambiguity, you're defining your jargon, and you're dialing in that authorial voice so you sound incredibly authoritative to whoever is reading it. Now, how in the world do we handle the structure? Well, think back to our blueprint analogy. The cohesiveness of the entire document has to support your argument. Your heading hierarchy, those act as your load-bearing walls, giving you logical levels of organization. Then you've got logical sequencing, which is like the main thoroughfare. You have to ask, does my data flow naturally from the introduction all the way straight through to the conclusion? And finally, your transitions. These are the hallways linking your paragraphs together, actively guiding your reader right through the argument without them getting lost.
All right, Section 4, the inspector's magnified view, shifting focus.
Okay, time to take off the hard hat and put on those white inspection gloves. Guys, this is a massive paradigm shift. You must deliberately stop focusing on the meaning of the sentence and shift entirely to the mechanics of the individual characters. Let me just repeat that because it is a really jarring shift for most writers. You are no longer reading for meaning, period. You are ruthlessly hunting for mechanical perfection.
So as the inspector, you need a highly specific target hit list. First up, mechanics. You're targeting typos, spelling mistakes, and those really sneaky homophone confusions, like using there instead of there. Next is punctuation. We're talking fixing comma splices, run-on sentences, making sure those possessive apostrophes haven't gone missing. And finally, consistency.
This means checking for strict, absolute uniformity across the entire document when it comes to your date formats, your capitalization, and your heading styles. Fixing these tiny issues is what truly protects the final structural integrity of your document.
Section 5. Bypassing the auto-correcting brain, the ultimate technique.
Now we hit a fascinating biological hurdle that literally every single writer faces. How on earth do you catch errors when your brain is hardwired to hide them from you? It's crazy, but the human brain actually processes words in chunks, completely skipping over smaller words or transposed letters. Because you wrote the text, your eyes automatically just see what you meant to write, creating this super powerful cognitive illusion of perfection.
So what's the ultimate technique to break that illusion? Reading out loud. I know it sounds simple, but forcing the text through your physical speech catches those skipped words every single time. It instantly reveals awkward phrasing, and it completely shatters that auto-correcting habit of your brain. It literally forces you to process every single syllable. It's a total game changer.
And once you catch those errors, how do you actually mark them? Well, professional proofreading relies on a universal code. The del mark is for deleting an error. TR tells you to transpose or switch the order of words around. That little caret symbol shows exactly where to insert missing text. LC and caps dictate your lowercase and capitalized commands, and my absolute personal favorite, STET, which simply means let it stand. It's essentially the ultimate never mind, I was wrong button for editors. Using these standard symbols makes your corrections undeniably clear to absolutely any reader or editor.
And finally, Section 6. The polished artifact, the true craft. I want to leave you with this thought today. Great writing isn't written, it is rewritten, structurally engineered, and rigorously proofread. Please, do not treat the polishing phase as some rushed afterthought. It is the true craft that separates the good from the absolute great. So the very next time you finish a rough draft, you have to ask yourself, are you just going to leave a messy pile of raw materials on the floor, or are you ready to actually engineer a masterpiece? Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep building brilliant work.